Well, today has been Police Crackdown Day on the book Portnoy's Complaint in Sydney. Police have raided at least 3 bookshops, including Angus and Robertson's.
In August 1970, in what author Patrick Mullins describes as the boldest act of censorship defiance in Australian publishing history, Portnoy's Complaint went on sale in more than 2,000 stores across the country.
We've been selling it continuously all morning, and it looks as if the addition of 75,000 will not satisfy the demand of the Australian public for this book.
The book had been printed and distributed in secret and in direct contravention of a ban by customs officials.
Why did you buy Portnoy's Complaint?
Well, I read about it in the paper this morning and I saw everyone queuing up in there and I thought it was absolutely hilarious and I'd buy a copy for Dad.
The dismantling of Australia's notoriously strict censorship system had been going on for decades. Within 10 years of federation, Australia was one of the most censorship-heavy nations in the world. The power to ban lay with customs, its officials tasked with weeding out blasphemy, sedition and obscenity, and upholding the morality of the people.
The department has been giving its officers the Army fast reading course, presumably so they can get to the filthy bits quicker.
Little knowing what they do, our youth are learning to pipe to the tune called by Moscow.
Reasons for censorship included everything from suppressing communist ideologies to discussions about birth control.
We have seen too much violence, explicit sex.
Famous works of fiction were fair game. D.H. Lawrence's Lady Chatterley's Lover made the blacklist, along with Ulysses by James Joyce. 2 decades later, Catcher in the Rye and James Baldwin's Another Country joined them. But the public pushed back, and through the 60s, against a backdrop of activism and changing attitudes, publishers challenged censorship boundaries. Wendy Bacon, then editor of the UNSW student newspaper Tharunka, rallied against the laws by publishing deliberately provocative material.
There was a lot of censorship around then, so it wasn't difficult to step across this line, the censorship line.
Twice she spent time in prison, charged with offences relating to obscenity and indecency.
Wendy, do you think that with the trial you've made any gains in your fight against censorship?
It's hard to tell, but you don't always think in terms of gains. You can't always tell at the time, but I'm glad of everything we did. I've got no regrets at all.
Very quickly we began to realise that this was an important issue and we began to really campaign against the censorship issue. But we didn't set out to actually have a big campaign against censorship. We just really valued an opportunity to be able to put our ideas out there.
But her tactics worked. The high-profile cases kept the public's attention on censorship. Amidst all this, American author Philip Roth published his 1969 novel Portnoy's Complaint. Even by today's standards, it's a salacious read, documenting the therapy sessions of a compulsive masturbator with a complicated family dynamic. Overseas, the book was an immediate success, selling more than 200,000 copies in 2.5 months of its release. In Australia, the chair of the National Literature Review Board, somewhat prophetically, claimed releasing it would imply the virtual abandonment of controls over literature in the country, and it was added to Australia's prohibited imports. But Penguin published it anyway, knowing full well what was to follow. Bookshops were raided and charges were laid against Penguin's managing director. That set the scene for a series of trials that would change Australia's censorship landscape forever.
This was a moment where the cream of Australia's literary elite, where journalists, writers and academics and publishers stood up and said enough is enough. We have a role to shape this country. We have a need to shape this country through our art and our literature, and we need to do so.